Love is a word that gets thrown around so easily that we begin to believe we understand it even when we don't. We think we want love. We say we're ready for it. We talk about it like it's something just waiting around the corner. But when we look closer, really look, we realize that most of us aren't prepared to receive it, and some of us don't even know what it really means. We are more in love with the idea of love than with what love actually demands. And that is where most journeys to love get lost before they even begin. Most people want a person who will understand them, accept them, choose them, stay with them. But they rarely ask themselves, am I the kind of person who does that for myself? We are taught to chase the feeling of love, but rarely do we prepare ourselves for the relationship that comes with it. And that's the problem, because love is not a passive thing that just happens to you. It's a decision, a series of actions, a way of showing up. And unless you've made those commitments with yourself first, you will struggle to sustain them with someone else, with us. It starts from a simple place. You have to know yourself. You have to know what it is you truly want, not just in the fantasy sense, but in real, lived experience. If you close your eyes and imagine your daily life with someone, how does it feel? Are you calm? Do you laugh a lot? Do you feel emotionally safe? What kinds of conversations are you having? What kind of silence do you share? Because if you haven't even defined the texture of the love you seek, you'll settle for any version of it that feels warm in the moment. Yeah. That's how people end up in situations where they're deeply unhappy but too afraid to walk away. They get addicted to the presence of someone, even when that person is absent emotionally. They confuse attention with affection. They take breadcrumbs and convince themselves they're holding a loaf. And they suffer silently in relationships that were never right for them because leaving would mean facing themselves. But that's the irony. Real love starts by facing yourself, by understanding what you need, by honoring it before anyone else has the chance to ignore it. You may believe that you're unlucky in love, but perhaps you've just never been honest about what kind of love you're willing to accept. There are people who will say all the right things and still never show up when it matters. There are people who will make you feel special for a moment and make you feel invisible the next. And unless you've done the work to define your standards, you'll tolerate those patterns, sometimes for years. You'll wait for them to change. You'll wait for their potential to catch up with their promises. But love doesn't grow in waiting rooms. Love grows in action. What you allow is what continues. If you've been accepting less than you deserve, it's not because love has betrayed you. It's because you've betrayed yourself in the hope that someone else would validate you. But validation that comes from outside can only fill you temporarily. Real confidence is internal. And real love recognizes that confidence and wants to add to it, not diminish it. This is the first step. Stop settling for what's available and start preparing for what's aligned. You don't need to be in a relationship to know your worth. In fact, the time you spend alone is the most powerful preparation you can ever do. It's when you learn who you are without the noise of someone else's opinion. It's when you learn what makes you proud, what fills you with peace, what restores you. And when you're full from within, you stop chasing people who drain you. You'll begin to notice that your standards become boundaries, not walls. That you say no, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. That your energy becomes magnetic because you're no longer desperate to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. And that shift changes everything. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming present. The most attractive person in the room is the one who is grounded, aware, and clear. When you walk into a room carrying a sense of purpose and peace, you change the frequency of the people around you. You're no longer hoping someone will notice you. You are simply observing who is aligned with you. People often underestimate the power of presence. They think attraction is about what you wear, how you look, or the words you use. But real attraction begins before a word is spoken. It's in the way you hold yourself, the way you breathe, the way your eyes meet someone else's with confidence and calm. That presence comes from within. It can't be faked and it can't be borrowed. It's the result of knowing who you are and liking that person enough not to need someone else to complete you. When you walk through the world with the energy of someone who is enough, you draw people towards you who want to add to your peace, not disturb it. That's the subtle difference between seeking love and attracting love. Seeking implies lack. It implies that something is missing and that you need someone else to bring it to you. Attracting love, on the other hand, is about becoming so full of your own life, your own joy, your own purpose, that someone who enters it sees it as a privilege. Not a project. You don't need to impress anyone. You need to express who you really are. When someone is aligned with you, they won't require a version of you that you can't sustain. You won't have to keep up a performance. You'll be able to relax into the truth of who you are. That is the kind of love worth waiting for. The kind where you don't have to shrink, silence, or shapeshift just to keep the other person comfortable. If you've ever been in a relationship where you felt exhausted just trying to be enough, then you know exactly how far from love that feeling is. You know the ache of over-explaining, of hoping, of tolerating inconsistency just to keep something going that was already falling apart. You've lived through the confusion of mixed signals, the frustration of one-sided effort, the slow erosion of self-esteem that happens when you love someone who only loves your potential. But you survive that, and now you get to choose differently. You get to stop auditioning for roles in other people's lives and start deciding who qualifies for a place in yours. You get to stop treating rejection as a verdict on your worth and start seeing it as redirection toward something better. You get to build a life that feels so rich, so vibrant, so full of you, that anyone who wants to be part of it has to rise to the occasion. There's a version of you that doesn't settle. That version of you doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't play games. That version of you knows that love isn't about earning someone's time. It's about sharing time with someone who values it just as much as you do. That version of you knows that silence is an answer, that inconsistency is a decision, and that you never have to force what's meant to flow. Relationships are not puzzles to be solved. They are mirrors. They reflect back to us the parts of ourselves that still need attention, healing, and growth. The wrong relationships teach us what to avoid. The almost right ones teach us what we still need. And the right one? Oh, that one simply feels like peace, like coming home to yourself, not losing yourself in someone else. It's okay if you've gotten it wrong in the past. It's okay if you've loved people who didn't know how to love you. That was part of the lesson. That was how you discovered the value of alignment, the necessity of boundaries, and the strength it takes to walk away from something familiar in pursuit of something real. That pain wasn't in vain. It prepared you. Now you get to choose clarity over confusion. You get to trust your instincts. You get to believe your own discomfort instead of rationalizing it away. You get to pause when something feels off instead of pushing through it hoping it will change. You get to stop settling for connection that costs your self-respect. Because the moment you start choosing yourself consistently, your world shifts. You no longer tolerate emotional crumbs when you know you're worthy of the whole table. You no longer stay in rooms where your presence is questioned. You no longer fight to be seen by people who are too blind to recognize your light. You begin to attract people who are drawn not to your wounds, but to your wholeness. People who don't need you to fix them or save them. People who have done their own work and want to build, not borrow. People who meet you at your level, not drag you down to theirs. People who aren't perfect, but who are willing to show up, willing to listen, willing to grow. And that's the beauty of love when it's real. It doesn't feel like effort, it feels like flow, not because there's never conflict, but because both people are committed to resolution, not retaliation. It feels safe, not because nothing ever goes wrong, but because you both know how to repair it when it does. The love you seek isn't waiting for you in someone else's arms. It's waiting for you in your own growth, in your own becoming, in your own willingness to step away from what's easy and familiar and walk toward what's unknown and true. That's the second step. Owning the energy you bring into the world and trusting that the right people will meet you where you are. There comes a point where clarity must meet action, where all the reflection, the inner work, the growth you've done now asks you to step into the world and practice it. Because love doesn't arrive while you're hiding from the world. It finds you while you're living. It finds you while you're living. And that's the moment when everything changes, not because something magical happens, but because you finally believe you're ready to live what you once only dreamed about. Love begins in small choices. You say yes to a coffee even though you're nervous. You let a conversation last longer than you expected. You smile at someone in a bookstore or answer a message without analyzing every word. You give yourself permission to explore without pressure. That's the gateway. Not to fall in love on the first date, but to allow the possibility of connection again and again. The old version of you would have waited for signs, overthought every text, expected rejection before it arrived. But the new version of you knows better. You've learned that love isn't about avoiding risk. It's about being willing to experience. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you imagined, you know the experience itself is expanding you, teaching you, strengthening your emotional resilience. And when it doesn't work out, and sometimes it won't, you don't spiral. You don't make it mean something about your worth. You don't go into hiding for weeks or punish yourself with questions that lead nowhere. Instead, you pause. You process. You remind yourself that not everyone is meant to stay and that every connection still reveals something valuable. You move forward wiser, not wounded. There's a quiet strength in someone who no longer fears rejection. It's the kind of power that makes people pay attention. Not because you're louder, but because you're real, unapologetically so. You're not pretending to be indifferent. You care. You just don't collapse. You hope. You just don't depend. You love, but you no longer beg for it. That balance is rare, and it's magnetic. When the right person comes along, you won't need to overperform. You won't need to explain your boundaries over and over, or shrink your truth to maintain peace. You'll speak honestly and be met with curiosity. You'll take up space without guilt. You'll feel safe being soft because strength will be shared. The connection will feel mutual, grounded, present. You may still feel nervous. You may still question things from time to time. That's human. But you'll also recognize the difference between fear and fact. Between a gut instinct and old anxiety, between healthy effort and toxic chasing. You'll know that love doesn't fix your life. It fits into it. It enhances, not rescues. It grows with you. And more importantly, it makes room for you. You've spent enough time wondering why it didn't work with people who weren't capable. You've cried over texts that were never answered and waited for closures that never came. You've gone quiet when you should have spoken up. You've stayed long past the point of peace. But all of that taught you something. It taught you what love is not. And now finally, you're learning what it actually is. Love is someone reaching out, not just when it's convenient, but when it's necessary. It's someone checking in after a hard day. It's someone laughing with you about nothing and staying with you when life feels heavy. It's shared effort. It's reciprocal vulnerability. It's being seen fully and not just accepted but cherished. And before someone else can do that for you, you must practice doing it for yourself. So now you stop waiting. You stop searching as if love is a prize at the end of a game. You begin living, fully, authentically, enthusiastically. You surround yourself with people who elevate your energy. You learn to flirt with life itself, smiling more, creating more, giving more, giving more. You make room in your world for someone to enter, not by obsessing over who they are, but by becoming someone worth meeting. That doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming present. It means waking up and asking, how can I love myself better today? What boundaries do I need to honor? What fears can I gently release? What risks can I take in service of growth? That daily practice is where love starts. Not on a dating app, not in a DM, not in the perfect outfit or witty response, but in how you live day by day. You don't need a partner to begin living a love-filled life. You create that life now. You bring love into every room you walk into. You leave people better than you found them. You express yourself fully. You support your own dreams. And then, if and when love arrives in the form of another person, it will be a continuation, not a correction, of the joy you've already cultivated. There's nothing desperate about desiring connection. Wanting love is human. But chasing it with fear is a choice. You're no longer doing that. You're not waiting for someone to see your value. You see it yourself. You're not trying to convince anyone to choose you. You're too busy choosing yourself. You're not lowering your standards to be liked. You're raising your standards to be loved right. So here you are, a new chapter, a different you. Not harder, just wiser. Not colder, just more selective. Not afraid, just intentional. You know what it took to get here. You know what you had to unlearn. You know what you had to heal. And that journey, that strength, is your foundation. Now you walk forward with an open heart and steady feet, knowing that love is not a destination. It's how you move, how you speak, how you live. And from that place, it will find you, or find you.